Oh. Can't believe I did
This is usually at least Friday night.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've gone back.
Oh,
Okay, if I can get everybody's attention, we're going to go ahead and call to order the September 14th meeting of the Salina City Commission. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Mayor Blanchard.
Here.
Commissioner Crawford.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Hardy.
Here.
Commissioner Ryan.
Okay, at this time I would ask that all of you here present who are able to please stand and join the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Thank you very much. All right, looks like we have a full slate of awards and proclamations, so we'll go ahead and get started.
Item 3.1, Mayor Blanchard to recognize outgoing Police Lieutenant Russ Lamer.
Okay, great. Lieutenant Lamer's here. Sir, would you come up to the podium, please? We're really glad that you made it today.
Thank you.
We're glad that you made it to this day, so, as are you, I'm sure. But just wanted to let everybody know that April 18th, 1984, I believe you were still in high school, correct?
Just about.
Right, okay. Lieutenant Lamer started his career at the Salina Police Department as police officer Lamer. And on September 18th, in a few days here, you will conclude your career and retire as Police Lieutenant Russ Lamer. So for the 30-plus years of service that you've provided to your fellow officers at the Salina Police Department and also to the City of Salina and the citizens, we thank you very much for your service and wish you the best of luck in your retirement. Thank
Well, I
you.
appreciate it.
And if you'd like to say a few words, we'd love to hear from you.
Well, let me get my notes.
There you go.
No notes. I just would like to thank the commission and Mr. Gage for the opportunity to have a really good career here. I spent most of my career in traffic enforcement, and I'd like to think I made a difference in some of the traffic and enforcement and the safety with people driving. I'd like to thank Chief Nelson. I think when he came, he made a big difference with the police department, has set it on a good course with good public relations. I know we've gotten some bad publicity lately, but I think with positive reinforcement and positive things going in the community, I think it will turn the tide with that. Here in the community in Salina, we do have good support, and I know everybody on the police department really appreciates that here in Salina. Thank my friends, retired Lieutenant Salzman and his wife for showing up, and everybody else from the PD that's here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Would any commissioners like to add any well wishes? Or
I remember a time when you gave me a ticket. And I was mad.
I
But I
only
like you
gave out
now.
a few. Did I change any behavior?
You did.
Yeah.
And I don't think the high school students speak poorly of you at all, so you won them over in your public relations.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that I've heard numerous comments throughout the community about what a great influence you've been on young people and also on young officers as well. So thank you for being a great mentor as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And then okay. Thank you.
Item 3.2, the week of September 17th through 23rd, 2015 is Constitution Week in the city of Salina. Cindy Otting with the Daughters of the American Revolution will read the proclamation.
Great. Is Miss Otting here? Oh, great. I do.
Okay. Whereas September 17th, 2015 marks the 228th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, John R. Blanchard, Mayor of the City of Salina, do hereby proclaim September 17th through 23rd, 2015 to be Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
First of
you.
all, we appreciate the Daughters of the Revolution doing this each year.
Thank you.
And we'll just ask once again if you have any special events or other
Let's see,
events for the coming week.
we have a display currently at the Salina Public Library, and we'll have one at the mall. And hopefully there'll be some bell ringing. I'm not sure. And I've written some churches and a couple other places, and maybe some articles in the newspaper.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, great.
That's
Well,
it.
thank you. I do have your signed proclamation
Okay.
here, and
Okay.
thank you once again.
Thank you.
Item 3.3, the month of September 2015 as National Preparedness Month in the city of Salina. Hannah Stombaugh, Director of Saline County Emergency Management, will read the proclamation.
All right. Hi, Hannah.
I'm usually used to saying good morning, Commissioners, but this is
I know.
afternoon. So thank you very much for having me. This is a proclamation declaring National Preparedness Month of September of 2015. Whereas National Preparedness Month creates an important opportunity for every resident of Salina, Kansas to prepare their homes, businesses, and communities for any type of emergency, including natural disasters and potential terrorist attacks. And whereas investing in the preparedness of ourselves, our families, businesses, and communities can reduce fatalities and economic devastation in our communities and in our nation. And whereas the Federal Emergency Management Agency's READY campaign, Citizens Corps, and other federal, state, local, tribal, territorial, private, and volunteer agencies are working to increase public activities in preparing for emergencies and to educate individuals on how to take action. And whereas emergency preparedness is a responsibility of every citizen of Salina, Kansas, and all citizens are urged to make preparations a priority and work together as a team to ensure that individuals, families, and communities are prepared for disasters and emergencies of any type. And whereas the citizens of Salina, Kansas are encouraged to participate in citizen preparedness activities and asked to visit the websites of the READY campaign at www.ready.gov and become more prepared. Therefore, be it resolved, the City Commission of the City of Salina hereby proclaims September 2015 National Preparedness Month and encourages all citizens and businesses to develop their own emergency preparedness plans and work together towards creating a more prepared society.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any special events planned for the month?
We've actually had a couple already. Our latest one was this weekend on Saturday. We worked with the Smoky Hill Air National Guard Range out at the Smoky Hill Bombing Range, and we had representatives from all of our rural fire districts, as well as the city of Salina, as well as several other entities out there that we held a huge exercise. We have been posting preparedness information and activities on the Saline County Facebook site, so we encourage citizens to like Saline County, take a look at some of that information that we have out there. We also have a couple of public presentations that are scheduled throughout the month, and just as a reminder, we encourage citizens to contact our office at any time. We're more than available to come do presentations on severe weather, on family preparedness, anything that our citizens would like.
That's great. Is there a link on your Facebook page to the ready.gov?
Yes,
Okay.
but maybe, yeah, there is. There's a couple of them that we've just completely shared from the ready.gov site. And then, of course, on the Saline County website under emergency management, we do have a direct link to the ready.gov.
Okay. And I would assume that that they have apps for your phone that you can download. and
Absolutely.
everything else.
There's a ton. And we've got several different partnerships with the Red Cross, Salvation Army. They all have apps that are free to download on your phone to not only have preparedness information, but also the Red Cross app delivers weather alerts directly to your phone. There's tons of information that's out there. And kind of that's what our office is really hoping to do, is help our citizens understand it and figure out what's best for them.
Good. Well, we've had pretty light weather this year, and
spoke
hopefully
too
everybody still becomes prepared that because it can get a lot worse. So.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Also, just real quickly, I have your side proclamation, but I'd also like to thank you for the work that you do also with North Central Kansas Regional Planning Commission on that board with Commissioner Hardy.
Yes.
So.
Thank you very much.
Item 3.4, the month of September 2015 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Salina. Melissa Lidgett, childhood cancer survivor, will read the proclamation.
Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm Melissa Lidgett. I'm 13 years old and I'm a blood cancer survivor. Whereas childhood cancer remains the #1 disease killer of children, more than genetic anomalies, cystic fibrosis, and AIDS combined, and whereas on average, the treatment for childhood cancer is 2 years and can cause serious side effects that may last a lifetime, and whereas every year, more than 15,700 children and adolescents are diagnosed with cancer. That is about 43 children each day. And whereas childhood cancer occurs regularly, randomly, and spares no socioeconomic class, geographic affiliation, gender or ethnic group, and whereas 1 in every 285 persons in the United States will develop cancer before his or her 20th birthday, and whereas every year over 2,500 children under the age of 20 lose their lives to cancer. That is equivalent to 7 children every single day. And whereas when a child is diagnosed with cancer, the entire family is forever affected. Therefore, in recognition of support of the patients, families, and professionals leading the fight against childhood cancer, I, John R. Blanchard, Mayor of the City of Salina, do hereby proclaim September 2015 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Salina and recognize the gold ribbon as the symbol of childhood cancer. I encourage all citizens to honor those young people who have lost their lives to this devastating disease and join the fight against childhood cancer in Salina.
Great. Well, thank you, Melissa. We're happy to have you here today. Can you tell us, do you have anything there on events that are scheduled for the month? Did a great job.
I'm Heidi Fireholm Smith. I'm the president of the Love Chloe Foundation, and we're a local nonprofit that helps families with children battling cancer. And so I just wanted to tell about a few things. We actually just had a big event on Saturday, our 8th annual kickball tournament. We hosted 13 teams. Over 200 players came together to play kickball and raise money for the cause. We raised over $11,000 for childhood cancer. So this was our biggest year yet. We were really excited about that. Each Wednesday, we've partnered with Y93.7, and we're doing a campaign called Cry for the Cure. And each Wednesday, one of our local families is going live on the air with Roxanne from 8 to 9 and telling their story. So this is a way for people in the community to kind of get a better idea of what some of these families have gone through. Either they either have a child that's still battling or may have lost a child recently. The other thing that we have, there's a Broen Birdsong Memorial Softball Tournament that's going to be this month on September 26th, so there's still time to register for that. We also each year sell awareness shirts and monkeys around town and on our website to help raise awareness. So this is our new awareness shirt we're all wearing. So those are available at different businesses that support the cause throughout the month. So we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, and appreciate all the work that the Love Chloe Foundation does too. And,
Thank you.
And all the great work. Melissa, I have a signed proclamation for you. Now, you did such a great job. Do you want to run the rest of the meeting? Thank you very much. Okay. Well, thank you all for 3 good proclamations and a retirement. I just want to add during this part of the meeting that I know several of us will be attending on Friday evening, September 18th at 7 p.m. in Sunset Park at the War Memorial, the 50th year commemoration of the Vietnam War and National POW MIA Recognition Day ceremony. So we invite all of you to join us out there for that event. Again, that's 7 o'clock at Sunset Park Friday night. And then also on Saturday night at 6 p.m. is Kansas Wesleyan University's football game. It's their City of Salina Community Day. And it will be at the Salina Stadium. Their first game will be October 3rd at their new stadium. But on the 19th, Saturday the 19th is Salina Community Day at the Kansas Wesleyan football game at Salina Stadium. I believe that's at 6 o'clock p.m. So with all that business out of the way, we'll move to Citizens Forum. And Citizens Forum is an opportunity for anyone to come up and speak regarding an item that is not on today's agenda. And we just would like you to give your name and your address, and we'd like you to please limit your comments to approximately 5 minutes. So we are open for Citizens Forum at this time.
My name is Joseph Miniman. I just come to put the council on notice concerning their 2 resolutions that I'd like postponed. Resolution number 157209 and resolution 157258. I just filed a lawsuit regarding this matter about 20 minutes ago. First court appearance is the 28th. I don't know when the next court appearance will be after that.
Okay.
I'd ask for postponement indefinitely
Okay.
until that matter is resolved.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, if I may, the matter
Yes.
that Mr. Miniman was referring to is the dangerous structure deadline that was last Friday. And so we had a conversation with Mr. Miniman on Friday afternoon about his request to extend the deadline. Staff is prepared to present a report. If you want to add this item as the last item on today's agenda, we'd be happy to give you a report on the status and a little bit more background to this issue.
Okay, we'll take care of that in other business. Okay. Give me that resolution number again. Just give me a resolution number, just one of them we're good with.
The
7.
second, as you may recall, the first resolution set a deadline. The second resolution extended that deadline to September 11th.
Let's hit the second extension
Give me
then.
1 second, and I can tell you what that resolution number is. 157258.
7258.
Yes.
Okay. You got that, Commissioner, too? Okay, good. Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this time? I saw someone stand up. Nope. Oh, I keep looking down too soon. Okay.
Ray Ruska, 235 North Santa Fe. I have kind of a controversial subject today, but I'm going to say it anyway. So, good afternoon, distinguished members of the City Council and citizens of Salina. I stand before you today to call attention to a symbol of racism and hatred that the city of Salina has linked itself to in recent years. That symbol is the rainbow flag, and I'm calling the city of Salina to denounce it in order to be politically correct and proclaim it as a symbol of racism and hatred. Am I foolish for asking to ban racism or a hate symbol? I say no. The recent actions by the government entities have made it illegal to use other flags and other symbols in the name of political correctness. Since Salina is always trying to be on the forefront of a political correction issues, we should lead by example by banning the rainbow flag from the culture. Why is the rainbow flag a symbol of racism and hatred? On August 26, 2015, one black man in Virginia kills two white news reporters and videotapes the shooting. The rainbow flag, symbol of the LGBT movement, is found in the killer's apartment during a police search. Therefore, based on precedents, the rainbow flag is the reason what the killer did to the white and straight community. The precedent for banning flags as racist and hate symbols can be found a few weeks ago earlier when a lone white gunman killed black members in a South Carolina church, allegedly due only to their skin color. In this example, the Confederate flag was demonized due to the gunman taking pictures with the Confederate flag. Somehow, the Confederate flag is now blamed as the cause of why that person pulled the trigger on his legally acquired gun. Now I can already hear the deniers out there, some of which sit in this very room asking why I'm standing in front of you at this time with this request. I'm challenging the city of Salina to disavow any previous relationships that either the current or previous city councils have entered into with the LGBT community due to the racism and hatred symbolized by the rainbow flag. Also, to draft a resolution, a formal apology letter from our esteemed mayor to be read publicly to all that are personally affected by the racism and hatred of the rainbow flag. The people of Salina are looking to the city council to lead in the effort to be politically correct in racial matters once again. This is an opportunity once again lead and be a politically correct city. City council members do the right thing and denounce the rainbow flag as a symbol of racism and hatred and call for it to be removed from city property, promoting through resolution or proclamation LGBT activities and any store shelves in Salina. It has already been done with the Confederate flag. It shouldn't be a big deal for the rainbow flag to come down too. One example is the Confederate flag taken down in South Carolina. They have imposed a de facto ban through their control of major retailers, Walmart, Amazon, eBay, Sears, and so forth. The show Dukes of Hazzard has been taken off the air because it features the Confederate flag on the roof of a car. I was going to define a couple of terms here, but I don't think I need to. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this subject.
Mayor, if I may share a couple comments.
If you feel it's necessary. Okay.
Just for clarification, we don't fly a rainbow flag or any other flag but the flags you would typically see in this room, the United States flag, the state flag, and the flag, the city flag.
Excuse me, Mr. Haruska, your time is up. If you'd please return to chair
So
while the
if
city manager
there is a
speaking.
rainbow flag in our possession, I've never seen it before. I'm not sure if the reference is towards an assumption of that or if the reference is towards others flying a rainbow flag or having it on their being or in some form on the premises. If that's the assumption, then we're talking about an issue of speech, which is a much different issue than what we as an organization might do or not do. And so I just want to be sure, and it may be a need for clarification of the question or of the request because I couldn't follow it, but...
Yeah, we're not going to need clarification of the
Okay.
request. So, Mr. Haruska, I asked you before if you'd please return to your seat. We'd move on with the meeting. Thank you. Okay, I think we're done with that. We'll move on to, find my agenda here. I'm going to move on to public hearings and items scheduled for a certain time.
Item 5.1, continue public hearing for S&B Motels Community Improvement District petition. 5.1A, first reading ordinance number 15-10795, approving the S&B South 9th Community Improvement District.
Okay, this public hearing remains open, and we will continue this public hearing. Do we have an updated staff report?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners. A couple of quick things. I won't spend a lot of time on this because we took a lot of time last time going through the project. But the first thing is we do have an updated Exhibit D, which is it's an estimated construction of costs. The only difference is the one that was in the original packet had a total of $5.2 million related to the conference facility, and the actual number is $5 million as was reported. So I wanted to verbalize that to make sure that we know that that's in the record officially. It's just a minor item. Real quick, just to give you an overview of the actions taken to date. On August 3rd, the City Commission approved a resolution that provided notice of the public hearing on the advisability of creating the CID, and you set the date and time for the hearing. On August 24th at 4 o'clock, you opened the hearing for the first time. At that point, staff went over aspects of the project, really quite a bit of detail. And we also disclosed that we made a mistake with the attachments to that original notice. So we asked that you take action to, in essence, continue the public hearing and republish the notice for today's date, which was done. And at that time, the governing body reviewed the project, discussed the project, and took an action to go ahead and postpone consideration of first reading until today. So we're here again today. There's no new information or anything of that sort. There was a question that was asked, and quite honestly, we just weren't prepared to answer it at the meeting, but it had to do with the why use a CID when an owner of a hotel could simply increase their price. And when we look at this, there's a couple issues here. The main issue is continuity of ownership over the life of the CID and the repayment for the incentive. And in this case, because it actually involves 3 properties versus 1, it sets that stage for that continuity over the life. Whereas I don't know if we didn't do that and the owner's just relying on price, there could be a change in ownership in time, and you might not have that continuity. So, and for us, just as a reminder, the key for this is not the hotel, although you need the hotel. The key is the conference facility, because we currently are losing, I think there will be others here that will address this in detail, but significant conference business because of not having a facility at the quality level that we used to have and would like to have for what we call the medium conferences and conventions and activities, and one that's attached to a hotel. And that's what we're missing today. And so that's what is the premise for the request. As we look at this, again, hitting the fiscal note is a pay-as-you-go incentive. It does not affect the collection of existing collection of taxes of the city in any way or any other governmental entity. It is a new and additional sales tax, 2% sales tax that's specific to the district area only. So it doesn't affect anything else in the community. When we look at the strategic plan, a couple things really. It creates a community of mixed-use quality development and redevelopment, and that's the primary item. It does allow us to take advantage of our central location. And that's really one of the big aspects that's important for our community, is to be able to do that, because we are centrally located, which makes it very beneficial for conferences and conventions and those types of activities. And this does allow us to do that. And so I went over the process of approval last time. So it's pretty much the same this time. I'll hold off on that because there's a series of steps depending on where you go. But prior to doing that, I'll let you go ahead and finish the public hearing and get any other comment that there might be for it.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I might have been a little premature procedurally because I wanted to make a disclosure that I did in fact receive a phone call from Mr. Norman Riffle, who I believe is the property, is the developer of the unit there. So I let him know that I would make that disclosure, but then also he indicated to me he was here at the last meeting, and he lives in Nebraska, and just so you guys have the same information I have, is his comments were just that he spoke in favor of it, obviously, and wasn't sure if he'd be able to make it down here today as well. And I understand that he may have had a phone call into you, and I don't know if he talked to you or not, but just wanted to make that disclosure. So anyway, we'll go ahead since we've been through the revised staff report. We'll open this up for public comment at this time. And then, and before I do that, let me just make sure, is there any new information that the applicant would like to share?
Mr. Mayor and Commission, thank you. This is my third time, so third time's a charm, I think, or I hope. My name is Chris Sook, and I'm an attorney. I represent S&B Motels. Stanley Weilert is here again on behalf of S&B, and then Jeff Gillum, who is in the architectural firm that's handling the planning, is here as well. So we can address questions if there are any that come up. I do want to point out two quick things. I'm not going to go through the entire proposal again. I think you've heard plenty of that. I think staff and Mr. Gage have done a great job of showing you the details of the project. With respect to the item that he brought to your attention, the change out of the exhibit, that was a clerical error in my office. It's important, I think, because the letter that you see that's part of the packet and the review that was done by Mr. Gillum on the prorated portion of how much of the project was dedicated to the convention center was based on the $5 million number that's part of the new exhibit, and that was the exhibit that he saw. I just had an older exhibit in our packet when it went through, so I apologize for that. And so his letter is specific to the exhibit that you see now. And the other thing that I want to ask on behalf of the developer is that you consider both a first and second reading tonight. I know that city staff report has recommended that. I know that it's part of what you have in front of you, and I don't need to belabor the point. But the question of a compelling public interest, we think, is justified in this particular sense from the perspective of the developer and also from the city's perspective. We're getting late in the year. Timing is critical. We have been working diligently with city staff, and I know that Mr. Gillum has been in contact with the planning department. There are certain things that we cannot do until we know we have the support of the CID. And we cannot proceed with asking for our building permit application to be reviewed. We cannot proceed with the PDD site plan review, which we could potentially have on the Planning Commission's calendar for October 6th if we get through a first and second reading today. That may be hard to make if we don't get through a second reading today. And the longer we delay in proceeding with the project, obviously, the less opportunity there is to establish when we hope to have the doors open and when we hope to be able to accommodate the kinds of events and conventions that the city would like to be able to bring to the community. So from our perspective, there is a compelling public interest to move forward today with both a first and second reading.
Okay.
And any questions, let us know.
All right. Thank you. Okay, at this time we will hear public comment. Okay. Yep. Just name and address, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Frank Hampton. Address is 114 West Walnut Street. I am speaking as the 2015 chairman of the Salina Area Chamber of Commerce. In support of the Hilton Garden Inn and the CID, it's a $15 million project. There'll be 92 rooms, 10,000 square feet of convention facility. And on that, I think Sylvia Rice from Visit Salina is going to speak here in a few minutes on the importance of having convention space and to get back some of the convention business that we've been losing. It will lead to 35 to 50 new jobs. And last month, the Salina Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors unanimously approved and went on record supporting the Community Improvement District. There's no risk to the city. no tax dollars being used. The risk is shouldered by the developer, Mr. Weilert. Again, we are supportive of this project and appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm Abner Perney, 101 Overhill Road, Salina. Last meeting, I am the one that raised the issue of what exactly is the incentive incorporated in this program, and it was clarified somewhat at that meeting in the break, and kind of worked through it at the meeting so that I think I understand how that works. I didn't actually ever speak for or against the project itself. So I'm here today to say I think the project itself is a good idea. I'm in agreement that there is a need for more mid-sized and small convention space, more hotel space, and that the project meets the zoning goals of the South Ninth corridor and the overlay district and all the other previous planning that has gone into that area. So I'm not opposed to the project, and now that I understand how this incentive actually works, I'm not opposed to the incentive. So I would agree that it's appropriate for the city to approve it at both hearings and get it on the road before winter hits. To make it as simple as possible, the incentive simply assures that there will be $5 million of cash flow into the project over a period of years, which may be as long as 22 years, regardless of who ends up owning the various components of the project in the future, whether they stay together or whether they're sold off. So, again, I'm in favor of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Sylvia Rice from Visit Salina. My address is 120 West Ash. You all probably are pretty certain about how I feel about this topic. For several years, we've been sharing with you in our annual report to the City Commission that we have a desperate need for a high-quality meet and sleep facility in Salina in order to regain the footing that we've lost over the last decade in hosting mid-sized to larger conventions. We've heard for years from our clientele, they want to come to Salina. Nobody can beat us when it comes to location. Nobody can beat us when it comes to service, but they simply have not had the accommodation that they need, that their members, frankly, insist upon in order to host these conventions. It's incredibly important that we move quickly. I'm sitting over here with Joanne McClure, our convention salesperson. She's made 2 contacts since she came into the room about future conventions. We, too, are very interested in hearing an opening date so we can get things rolling. It's a very important project, not just to this developer and his properties. And I think that's something that's really important to remember. It will have a very positive effect on the other hotels, on the restaurants, on the shopping outlets, on the attractions. It's going to have a huge impact across the board. We have literally lost, dare I use the word hemorrhaged, millions of dollars over the last decade in lost business. And we're very, very anxious to try to get some of that back.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you for staying on top of this for the many years that you have. Okay, any further public comment on this item? Okay, I see no more public comment at this time, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion or a motion.
Just have one question. I brought it up the last meeting. I just happened a few days ago make a hotel reservation for my wife in Kansas City, and the bill had a little extra amount on the bottom for what amounts for either tourism, travel, some type of worthy purpose that I didn't mind paying money for, and I thought of this project. Will the hotel bill here separate this out as some identifiable entity that promotes tourism rather than a high city tax?
We understand that the software that will be used for the invoicing has the ability to be able to itemize the charges. And so from that perspective, if you see a transient guest tax, for instance, show up, it would show up separately of this, and we would not be lumping them all into the same.
Give it a nice, beautiful name that lets folks know that they really are contributing to the ambiance of the area there.
Whether it's, Mr. Commissioner, whether it's CID improvement tax, whether, I can't tell you today what exactly the wording would be, but the intention would be that it would be itemized so people would be aware that they were paying something separate.
Thank you.
Commissioners, that is consistent with, as you mentioned, the transient guest tax is different than a sales tax. And so wherever I've traveled, you can always see that breakdown, and you see how the tax is broken down. So it would be in the same form, some similar form.
Thank you.
I move that we approve on first reading ordinance number 15-10795, approving the S&B South 9th Community Improvement District.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve on first reading ordinance number 15-10795. Any further comment? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. At this point, was there anything in the series of actions we need to take today that you'd like to comment on?
Sure, thank you. The next step is if you would like to meet the timeline in the request that was just made, you would need to do that by determining that a compelling public interest exists, just simply through a type of action that includes a motion, a second, and a vote. And if you as a commission believe that the compelling public interest exists due to the timing of the season and construction and keeping the project on time, then if you make that and that action is approved, you could then bring second reading. You would then bring second reading to today's date and get us back to the original timeline that we started with.
Okay.
And so I think in looking at it, staff does recommend taking that action because they are correct. And as we look at the construction year, it's shrinking pretty quickly.
Okay. Great. Well, then I would, on that note, I would entertain a motion in that regard.
I move that we declare that a compelling public purpose exists for second reading approval of ordinance number 15-10795 on the same day as the first reading.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to declare that a compelling public purpose exists for a second reading approval of ordinance number 15-10795 on the same day as the first reading. Any further comment on this? I'll just by way of those who aren't fully aware of, because a compelling public interest, it can be quite broad. Unless anybody else wants to add on to this, I just think that, for me anyway, a public interest exists in the fact that, as you talked about, the timeline was such, but also that part of the reason why the timeline is compressed here is that we did have to follow a process and make a second mailing that was outside of the control of the developer. So, in my mind, out of a compelling public interest is that there's fairness that is extended to the applicant on this, and I want to be known as a community that's fair. So, there's great public interest in that. So, anyway, with that, we'll have a roll call, please. Or, I'm
Nope.
sorry.
Nope.
This is up or down. We'll go all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes 5-0. So I'll entertain a motion on the second reading.
I move that we approve on second reading ordinance number 15-10795.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve on second reading ordinance number 15-10795. Can I get a roll call now, please?
Commissioner Crawford?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Hardy?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryan?
Aye.
Mayor Blanchard?
Aye, that passes 5-0. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you to the applicant for your patience. And thank you to Mr. Riffle, Mr. Hampton, Sylvia Rice, and Mr. Perney for your public comments on that.
Mayor, we have one more action for you to consider.
Oh.
And you got the meat of it, trust me. But it's the CID development agreement that should be in concert with the other action. And that's resolution 15-7277. And then that'll wrap it up.
Well, we are on a roll here.
Yeah, that's item D on the action items there.
Okay, and this was discussed earlier in the meeting on the,
Yes.
in August, as I recall. Okay.
I move that we approve resolution number 15-7277, authorizing the mayor to enter into a attached CID development agreement.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 15-7277, authorizing the mayor to enter into the attached CID development agreement. Any further comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. We're done now. Thank you all again very
Build a
much. Appreciate
beautiful
it.
facility.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Item 5.2, public hearing and report on petition number 4373, requesting the vacation of a 20-foot platted utility easement located on lots 2 and 5, Block 1 of the Triplet 2 addition located at the southeast corner of Ohio Street and North Street. 5.2A, first reading ordinance number 15-10800.
Okay, this public hearing is now open, and we'll receive a staff report from Mr. Andrew.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This public hearing, not on an item of community import, but it's important to Mr. Augustine, the owner of Citywide Self-Storage. And from time to time, we will run into a situation where original platting of property conflicts with development plans, and there is a statutory process for vacating utility easements that are in the way of a proposed project or construction. So in this case, we had a petition filed by Mr. Mark Augustine on behalf of the Rebecca L. Augustine Trust, and the property we are looking at is once again, we're at the northeast or the southeast corner of Ohio and North Street. As we've looked at this area before with the Ohio widening, this used to be Twin Valley Garden Center, and then in the late 80s, early 90s, it was converted over to a mini storage facility. There was a plat of this property done. The plat used to run over and abut the housing project there, but in 2000, a portion of this property was transferred over to the school district to allow this road to come out from Lakewood Middle School. And so what we have seen over time here is a mini storage facility that has grown and developed in phases. And Mr. Augustine is developing plans for his next phase, and he determined that an easement that was on the original plat lies right in the location of his planned building construction. So he and I researched the origin of that and the purpose of that, and determined that it didn't appear to be anything that was actually within the easement. The petition was filed, all the utilities were contacted, no one had anything within the easement or objected to its vacation. And so our purpose of having easements is to protect the utility lines that are installed by public and franchise utilities, and having none here, we don't think this serves a public purpose. So we would recommend that the petition filed by Mr. Augustine be approved, and the mechanism for getting an easement eliminated is a ordinance that orders it to be vacated. So the appropriate action today, if you're in favor of it, would be to approve ordinance number 15-10-800 on first reading, and that would begin the vacation of this easement. What would occur, or what does occur, is that when the second read of an ordinance occurs, that ordinance is taken to the Register of Deeds office and recorded, and then that becomes a record that the easement no longer exists. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions of staff?
Is this easement part of a larger easement?
It is. I think Mr. Hers has a drawing that can show you this. The easement runs right here, and this is the location of proposed building. I think we have another, do we have another slide as well? Okay, these, when they started, the areas were highlighted with color and it has faded, but there was an easement that ran along the boundary here and then along the edge here, and the purpose was to get utilities from North Street down to here and over, and basically this doesn't look like this anymore because there's now a road that goes through here from the school. This easement's gone, this easement's gone, and this segment right here is a leftover piece. This area here was all replatted as part of the middle school plat, leaving this leftover segment right here. And so with the action today, all of this and all of this would be eliminated. This is just the final piece.
Okay. In essence, we'd be the last to vacate. There's nothing in there anyway.
There's nothing left
okay.
to give away.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll open for public comment then at this time on this item if anybody has public comment. I did not expect any. So we'll close public hearing and bring it back for action.
Mr. Mayor, move approval on first reading ordinance number 15-10800.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve on first reading ordinance number 15-10800. Any further comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. We'll move on now to the consent agenda.
Item 6.1, approve the minutes of August 24th, 2015. Item 6.2, award demolition bid for project number DS15-0002 for future proposed structures and their accessory buildings to Excel Dirt and Excavating in the amount specified in the bid documents, and allow staff to contract for inspection services from North Central Regional Planning Commission upon designation of dangerous structures. And item 6.3, approve the purchase of full court enterprise software upgrade from Justice Systems, Inc. in the amount of $51,776 plus $19,110 for annual maintenance, for a total of $70,886.
Okay, thank you. Are there any items that a commissioner would like to move or have amended at this time?
I'd like to remove item 6.3.
Okay. Commissioner Hardiman, 6.3. I just have one correction on the minutes, and it would be on the first page for item 5.1B, and it would just be, and it's Mr. Sook was just here, and just to correct the spelling of his name, there is no H, it's just S-O-O-K. Okay.
I also have a correction. Generally, I don't do this, but I think it's on, trying to think where I saw it. It's the K-Wood spelling. I think that's supposed to be a C. K-Wood, it's on page 7
I
of
believe
the
you're correct
minutes.
on that. And does Mr. Angel's hair have 2 L's at the end or 1? Is it 2 L's? Okay.
I believe it's 2, yeah. Yeah, I believe it's 2.
Wherever that's in the record on page 7.
Angels towards the bottom. Okay.
Near the end. Okay. Okay, so if I can get a motion to approve the consent agenda less item 6.3 with revisions to the minutes.
So move. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes 5-0, and I believe Mr. Hobby, you are, oh, I'm sorry, no, you're not. It's
Mr. Ross.
Jack. Yeah.
Would you like to review the item, or would you like me to answer a specific question?
I just had one question. On the annual maintenance, it says $19,110, but that's a recurring expense, correct?
Every year.
So the maintenance is funded from some other source for the years after year 1?
It comes out of my budget, but it's not the CIP budget. It'd be the maintenance budget, if you will, that I pay for all my accounts.
Okay. That was it.
Okay. Any further questions? Nope. Okay.
I move we approve items, are you ready for our motion?
Yeah.
I move we approve item 6.3, approve the purchase of full court enterprise software upgrade from Justice Systems in the amount of $51,776 plus $19,110 for annual maintenance for a total of $70,886.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of full court enterprise from Justice Systems, Inc. in the amount of $51,776 plus $19,110 for annual maintenance for a total of $70,886. Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. Just a quick note, because I thought 6.3 was the meant to ask, and it has no bearing on the vote, but does the square footage on the demolition cost, it's the building perimeter, the exterior dimensions, but does that matter if it's a 1 or 2 story building?
There is two different segments in there. One is 350 and the other one was 335, I believe it was.
For
So,
two,
yes,
for
a
two
little
story,
difference.
okay. Just a slight difference then. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to administration.
Item 7.1, second reading ordinance number 15-10798, requesting annexation of a 111-acre tract of land located on the east side of South Ohio Street, south of Schilling Road, into the city.
Okay, ordinance 15-10798 was passed on first reading on August 24th, 2015. Since that time, no comments have been received. We'll take a motion for,
Could I-
we're up for second reading unless you want to have a discussion.
Just
Do-
make a comment.
Either way, yeah.
I voted against this annexation at the last meeting, and I don't think my one vote will make a difference this time either. But I think this is it's an appropriate time to mention that, for property that can potentially become residential at some point in the future, we really need to look at our Salina housing survey. We need to look at our comp plan, more importantly, follow the comp plan, and plan our housing here rather than just build housing. And I think we need to, at this point, look to see what we want to do to develop housing for the next 5 to 10 years. Because what we do now is not going to have any effect in the next 12 months, but 8 years down the road, it's too late to reverse momentum, which is started now. I understand, the advantages of having it under city zoning and disadvantages,
Right.
probably, which aren't many, but I don't want to send the wrong message that we're just going to do willy-nilly expansion without some cohesive plan.
I was going to add, too, that I see this tract as being different than the other tract that we voted on, the 27.23 acres, and that this tract in particular might deserve more attention in terms of the highest and proper, best use for the land in the future.
Okay, thank you. And as for me, I voted in favor of this last time, and I'll be honest, the reason I did is that I wanted to leave myself the opportunity to make a motion to reconsider. And I wish I had done it on the first item, but I didn't. And because I too feel like it's on this annexation, and I do want to make a comment about this too. I wanted the opportunity to publicly state to City Commissioner and our City Council that I appreciate all the work that went into the agreement that was made, because in reflection and looking at that and everything, I know that your job is to do what your governing body directs you to do. And I think to keep it clean, I think I still don't like the agreement, but I think you were given something really smelly and asked to make it smell as good as possible. And I think you did a great job of doing that, but I still dispute whether whether it's too far, because I feel like at the very least the county was participating in contract zoning through a three-way game there. And probably the main reason that I'm against the agreement is just, or the annexation, is that I feel like when the city taxpayers if they were to take a real close look at this, as I think we all have, and we all have different interpretations of it, but mine is that we were sold that this thing was going to be, we were going to extend utilities for a county-owned expo center, and that the county would ask for that extension to occur when they were ready to develop their expo center. And so the Salina taxpayers are being asked to spend the money to extend those utilities in perpetuity. And we hear that, well, there is no expo center planned for that area in the near future or ever. And so in essence, we're building infrastructure to nowhere, and the only beneficiary of that infrastructure was a third-party developer who had connections that he was able to take advantage of to have the infrastructure available for the development of his property. So this thing kind of grew from an agreement about how do we get control of Oakdale Park, and I think you successfully were able to do that, but I think the trouble I have is that we moved away from the vision of our comp plan in order to accomplish that goal. And it's not something that I think is in the long-term best interest of the community to annex 138 acres, especially since I think coming up tomorrow, we're going to look at, or the Planning Commission will be looking at platting and everything in excess of another 250 lots. So, we have plenty of that don't include annexation. We have plenty of land within the city already to do residential development without annexing more property. And so just on principle, I intend to change my yes vote to a no vote on this particular item. So, and I don't know if you'd like the opportunity to address any of that.
Just one item. One thing that you may or may not be aware of is when we look, and it's not really related to the housing piece, it's really just related to the infrastructure planning. And we have a pretty good size, this is about water, pretty good sized water line that goes down to along Waterwell Road. And so we do have a long-term infrastructure plan at some point, and it doesn't have to be now, it could be 10 years, 20 years, but at some point, particularly if we have more industrial development within the industrial area just north of Waterwell Road and just west of Ohio, to loop that, to bring that line in, and I say loop, to connect it, to create a loop system in that form. So we do have a long-range plan that would have connected that anyway. Certainly this triggers it in a different timing than what it would have been, but at some point in the future, we were going to need to do that depending on development that we might have down there. And that's in all likelihood what would have triggered it earlier versus the housing up north, but just so that you're aware of that infrastructure planning.
Not that I'm trying to persuade you to vote differently, Mr. Mayor, but I do think it is to the advantage of the city to have the ability to control what kind of development or not happens on that 111-acre tract of land. And I do know that the county has different building codes that for residential development than the city does. The city's is more stringent, and we've had some issues in the past with land being annexed by the city that has already been developed and that does not adhere to the Salina building codes, and it makes it more difficult to make those neighborhoods compliant with the city requirements. And so I think it is, well, then commissions down the road would be thankful that we are able to determine what happens in those 111 acres. That's the way I look at it. whether it's ag or residential or commercial or industrial.
Well, I appreciate that argument, but the argument could be made, then why don't we go ahead and start trying to annex every piece of ground in our, we tried to set up an urban service area for that particular reason. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we got, and I think our planning staff saw it as a huge benefit to be able to work with the county planning staff on that. And my understanding is that it was mutual, but that from the commission level, there was no interest in having that cooperation with the city. Is that right? Or are we bound underneath the development agreements and so on that were lined out in our draft comp plan, or our comp plan in the county's 2008 comp
I'm
plan?
not sure when you're talking about the cooperation between the two, what piece are you referring to?
Well, I'm talking about how the development occurs in the urban service area.
Okay. Yeah, we really don't have much say in what happens on the county side. And quite honestly, from a subdivision perspective, because of the rural nature of it, there really aren't many requirements, except the one key requirement, and we talked about this last time, is that they do have, and I believe it's a 1 to 20 acre ratio of 1 unit per 20 acres. So
Right.
if they go by that was intentional at the time, based on planning, staff involvement in planning and suggestion, and planning commissions and governing bodies, because for a couple of reasons. One is that we felt that that was probably the most effective tool to limit rural development close to the city. Rural development's fine further out if they want to do that, although any rural development does take away cropland. We know that if it's on a decent cropland. But from our perspective, if it's too close and it's not something that can easily be converted to an urban nature development, it creates problems for us in the long-term future. And so that requirement, in essence, keeps that from happening. And so as long as that requirement's there, we're setting pretty good in that area. If that requirement changes, then it depends on what the county governing body would like to do.
Okay. Well, and I just, I'd just like to make note of in the technical section of the comp plan, in the tech document section, it does also again refer to growth and development. And I want to say this again, I don't think you can say it enough times, and maybe just, if I put a little emphasis in the way it's written, it might start to make a little more sense, because I think we hear about, well, there needs to be balance. And so every talk of greenfield development always says, well, the comp plan says balance. The comp plan says balance. So I just want to put this particular sentence in the comp plan on the record. And that is it says directly here, the future method of growth and development will be that of infill, reuse, and redevelopment, balanced with new greenfield development. It didn't put it the other way. It didn't say that we should try to balance with some infill here and there and a little bit of redevelopment here and there. It says that our future method of growth, and it stated the method of growth to be that of infill, reuse, and redevelopment, balanced with new greenfield development. So the entire vision of this comp plan points to that concept. And yet we do very little to help implement that idea into what we're doing in our plan. And I think that when we talk about annexation, I'll just go back to also an earlier thing. Each year we do it, the Planning Commission does an annual, and Commissioner Ryan, you know this as being past chairman of the Planning Commission, you do an annual review of the comp plan. And in 2013, March of 2013, during the annual review of the comp plan, there were probably about a dozen parcels or properties identified as potential annexation parcels. And the two that we just annexed in, neither one of those lists were on that Neither one of those two properties were on that list. So when we talk about priorities for annexation and potentially parcels that are more along in the lines with our vision of the comp plan, compatible is the word I'm looking for. When we look about those parcels that are maybe more compatible with the vision and us getting to the place we want to be, I think that there are a lot more options available there, that right now, what's keeping the county from doing something on them? And so, for those reasons, and mainly just that I think at some point we have to really decide whether we're going to embrace and implement this comp plan, or if we're going to continue to do as we did last week and say the preferred direction and method of growth that we are telegraphing to developers that aren't in Salina, but that may want to take a look at Salina, that our preference is to continue greenfield development in South Salina, because that's what we did last week. And I want to, I'd like to kind of put the brakes on that and start implementing this plan.
I think the easiest way to implement that infill and development part of the comp plan and to put the brakes on greenfield would be to make infill and redevelopment as desirable and as easy as the greenfield side. So far, we have not had very many takers in terms of infill and redevelopment, although we preach it all the time. And I think that we need to look at whatever measures, whatever incentives we can find to get those developers and builders over the hump so that infill and redevelopment does make sense, whether it's continuing to add land to properties to our land bank, which I think is something that might help us as much as anything. But the other thing I wonder about is that the infill that we're talking about can't happen as quickly as a greenfield scenario. Infill and redevelopment is something that happens over decades instead of years. We need to have blocks of land in place that developers can take advantage of. We have to have right situations, and those don't happen every day or every year. And so it's more difficult to make infill and redevelopment happen. We just need to look at whatever resources we have available to us to make it attractive. And I don't know what those are in addition to what we're already doing. But whatever we're doing so far hasn't worked all that well.
Has there been any consortium or non-binding discussion between planners and builders and comp plan developers? Just to have a conversation to find out what builders in this area can do, or if there are other ideas from outside the area that our builders can act on. I mean, I don't know who the organization, the person, the panel, the commission would be to spearhead such a conversation. But it looks like we're describing these as two opposing camps, and they don't necessarily have to be, but there has to be communication. And I don't know if that platform for communication has ever been established or been initiated.
I'm kind of wondering, too, just to get my 2 cents worth in, if the downtown redevelopment project, the 2020 project, might spur some infill development at some point. I mean, I think it might. Maybe that's too positive, but I think it might.
Well, I think your observation is correct, but I don't think that you're going to attract residential developers when they see that. So far, what we've done is we've said our preferred pattern of growth is south, our preferred method is annexation and greenfield development, and by all appearances, it appears that it's like, well, and it looks like the developers would prefer to have the city finance their infrastructure through special assessments. You put those three together, and I think any real estate developer, whether he's doing infill development or anything else, is not going to take they're not even going to take a first look at this market because there are too many things stacked up against redevelopment to begin with. We can develop tools like land banks and setting up TIF districts and setting up different neighborhood revitalization programs that we try to set up. And we can work on trying to help developers consolidate properties and develop blocks rather than individual lots. But you're never going to get a developer to the table as long as you show a commitment to the opposite of what you tell them you're trying to accomplish. And in the turnover of commissions that are every 2 years, it's already risky enough to begin with. We're going to need to start showing a pattern of commitment to infill and redevelopment before any developer will take us seriously in that regard. And I think the best time to do this was to start doing it was about 5 years ago when we passed this comp plan. And the second best time is, talked to Mr. Gage earlier about something, the second best time is right now. And the longer you put off doing the inevitable, the longer it's going to, the harder it's going to be. So, yeah, it's never going to be as easy as greenfield development, especially when you don't have a whole lot of stipulations or anything put upon what you can and can't do, clustering, connectivity, suitable soils, those types of things. And that just makes it that much easier. But redevelopment, I don't think anybody's ever tried to represent it as risk-free. It's complicated work. And, I think anybody that's done work in Manhattan and other places that had the conversation 20, 25 years ago saying, hey, let's develop our core, they got pushback there too. But you go to Manhattan now and you look around and downtown's fantastic and housing downtown gets better all the time, and I think they clip off neighborhoods at a time, but they've got tools put in place. They have traditional neighborhood design overlay zones. They have land banking. They have other functions that they've done to make it more attractive. And at some point, we have to provide direction that says we're committed to implementing this comp plan by doing those methods first, recognizing we need to balance it with some greenfield development, but it doesn't need to be the overriding and the only pattern that we have. So, any further comments? Because we don't want to go another 6.5 hours here.
Call the question.
Okay, you can go ahead and make a motion then if you'd like.
I move we approve, let's see, we are at item 7.1 on second reading, ordinance number 1510798, requesting annexation of the 111-acre tract of land located on the east side of South Ohio Street of Schilling Road into the city.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve on second reading ordinance number 15-10798, requesting annexation of a 111-acre tract of land located on the east side of South Ohio Street, south of Schilling Road, into the city. Any further comments? Oh, my mic is sinking. Okay, seeing none, we'll get a roll call, please.
Commissioner Crawford?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Nay.
Commissioner Hardy?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryan?
Aye.
Mayor Blanchard?
No. That passes 3-2 with Commissioners Blanchard and Davis dissenting. Okay. We should fly now. 7-2.
Item 7.2, receive public comment regarding the proposed use of fiscal year 2015 Justice Assistance Grant Program funds and authorize the JAG program grant application and equipment acquisition as presented.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Deputy Chief.
How are you?
Welcome.
Earlier this year, as we do most years, received a solicitation for the JAG grant from the U.S. Department of Justice. Our allotment this year was $16,868. That's shared with the Sheriff's Department. Their share of that grant would be $2,531, and our share would be $14,337. We have decided to obtain some Stalker speed radars with our portion of that, 5 of those. And we have been awarded the grant. At this point, our recommendation is that you sign the memorandum of agreement with the county and allow me to electronically submit those forms, as well as allow us to acquire the radars.
Okay. I think Commissioner Crawford wants to know how accurate those stalkers are.
We'll ask Lieutenant Laner. Oh, well, he's leaving though, isn't it?
Thank you. I do have a, and this is probably more of a question for staff rather. On these JAG grants, I noticed in the reading that there's a whole, on the last page, an overall summary with a lot of different categories, all of which, except equipment, is filled in 0. Are those, reading that, are all those different categories that might be eligible for these types of funds?
Would you like?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Are you talking about on the overall summary page on the budget
Right.
summary? Yeah, a lot of agencies, jurisdictions will get a lot more money, and you can, it could be several $100,000. In the past, several years ago, we obtained some money for traffic enforcement, and this was back in the early 1990s. And I think we acquired 3 or 4 officers that for nothing but traffic enforcement, and for several years, and that encompassed several $100,000. So it just depends on how much you're awarded that you can look at those other things for that.
Okay.
Typically, we've always, the amounts that we get goes down every year, at least that I've been involved with the grant. And I think the first year that I did it was 3 or 4 years ago. It was maybe 24,000, and as you can see, it keeps going down every year. Kind of the easiest way to work through the grant is just to purchase equipment, and we get the equipment purchased, get it out in the field, make some reporting to them, and then we close out the grant.
Okay. And do these radars, what does it do to our inventory of that? Is it updated completely? Is that update half of it, or where are we?
We purchased some with it last year as well. I don't remember the exact number. Probably 2 is what we've got, because I think they're around $4,000. So we're probably not half yet.
Okay.
We're working that way.
Okay. Boy, I'm wondering if we have any public comment on buying radar guns. Okay, we don't. So we'll bring it back for action.
Move that we authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding, and that we authorize the electronic submittal of the JAG program grant application as presented, and we authorize the acquisition of 5 Stalker speed radars.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Motion and a second to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding, approve the electronic submittal of the JAG program grant application as presented, and approve the acquisition of 5 Stalker speed radars. Any further comment, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Item 7.3, resolution number 157275, authorizing the mayor to execute a construction manager at-risk agreement with McCown Gordon Construction, LLC, setting forth the terms and conditions relating to McCown's proposed construction manager at-risk services for the Salina Downtown Fieldhouse, project number 15-3077.
Okay, Mr. Hardesty.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Today I bring you another step in the process of the Downtown Fieldhouse project. As you know, in previous months, the owner's rep and the design team have been selected for this project. To complete this team, the construction manager at risk is now being considered. This selection was done using an RFQ process similar to several recent other projects within the city. 7 firms responded to the RFQ, and 4 were interviewed. We did have a diverse group of professionals, including representation from Frew Development, SFS Architecture, and the City of Salina, meet and rated each construction firm. One company, McCown Gordon, rose to the top during this process. We do have detailed stats on McCown in the blue sheet, if you'd like to go over those. And today I do have Todd Knight, the regional manager of McCown Gordon, here to answer any further questions that may be specific to his company. The contract does call for a set amount of $25,000 to be paid for pre-construction fees. The remainder of the contract would be paid on a percentage basis once a GMP has been settled and approved. For recommended action, the city staff has identified the following options for consideration. We do recommend option 1. Option 1 is to approve resolution number 15-7275, authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement with McCown Gordon. Option 2 is do not approve the resolution. And option 3 is to task staff with additional research. At this time, I'd stand for questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have questions for staff at this time? Okay, I don't think there are a whole lot of questions. I have a quick question. What the $25,000 retainer out of this is from what funds do those come from? What do we?
The 25,000 of pre-construction comes out of the private dollars that were provided initially for this and a couple other pieces of the project. The design is another piece.
Okay, and then as this, there are still a couple of pieces related to the field house, but not to the CAMR. Should there be changes in scope and what SFS is doing and other things, how will that be handled in this contract?
Yeah, and I think you're referring to the market feasibility piece that we need to get done that we weren't able to keep on the agenda this week. We hope to have next week. If for some reason that or some other factor would change any aspect of that would cause us to make a change in design, I don't see really much of that affecting this, except possibly the time frame might. If that would occur by chance, then what we would do is we would negotiate and try to figure out the appropriate time frame. We have a little bit of wiggle room in there and come back and get all the parties to agree to that. I wouldn't necessarily see that increasing costs, at least in this piece of it. Design, it just depends if there's a big change in scope of design.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll mention I see Mr. Todd Knight in the audience from McCown Gordon and invite him up if he'd like to say a few words, please.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity again to come back and work with the City of Salina. We're nearing completion on the Bicentennial Center. Got just a couple weeks left there, and are excited to venture again together on this very exciting project for downtown Salina. So appreciate it very much.
Okay. Well, thank you. And are you doing? Is McCown Gordon doing some work on one of the schools or a couple of them? And
we are acting in a similar capacity, CMAR, on the 2 high school projects.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Knight? Nope. Okay. Just thank you, and look forward to working with you on this project as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any public comment or any further public comment on this particular item? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back for action.
Mr. Mayor, move adoption of resolution number 15-7275, authorizing the mayor to execute a construction manager at risk agreement with McCown Gordon Construction, LLC, setting forth the terms and conditions relating to McCown's proposed construction manager at risk services for the Salina Downtown Fieldhouse Project number 15-3077.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 15-7275, authorizing the mayor to execute a construction manager at risk agreement with McCown Gordon Construction, LLC, for the Salina Downtown Fieldhouse Project number 15-3077. Okay, any further comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. Good luck, And thank you, and it was great reading. So thank you, staff, for that book this weekend. Okay. Going to move on to development business at this time.
Okay. Item 8.1, application number Z15-9, requesting a comprehensive amendment of section 42-815 through 42-825 of the Salina Municipal Airport Zoning Ordinance. 8.1A's first reading ordinance number 15-10799.
Okay, Mr. Andrew, for a staff report on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a zoning ordinance text amendment application, but it also has a geographic component to it as it focuses on our Salina Municipal Airport and surrounding airspace. And right now, we currently use 2 land use compatibility tools out in the municipal airport area and the neighboring land uses. And our 2 zoning techniques are to use traditional zoning to regulate land uses around the airport, and we use the airport overlay zoning to prevent the establishment of structures which might constitute a hazard or obstruction to the airspace. And so we have traditional zoning in place around the airport. Most of the airport itself is zoned A1 agricultural. The area around it is primarily industrial with some university district zoning for K-State Salina and other educational uses. All around the airport, the Saline County has zoned agricultural. And so based on some changes in technology and the way the airport operations have been working since 1992, as well as input from a recent visit from the FAA, the Airport Authority's consultant, J'Aviation, as part of their update to the master plan, put together a draft text amendment to update the airport zoning ordinance. And city and county planning staff have both reviewed that. There's not really any substantive change that's going to affect anything in the vicinity of the airport. It's mostly cleanup items and updates and terminology. When the FAA was out here, they did not identify any airspace violations, and I feel like over the past 15 years, we've had very good coordination between city and county planners and airport authority staff to avoid any airspace encroachments out in that area, and we certainly hope that continues because the dread for any planner or for an operator of an airport is to get a notice from FAA that they're discontinuing funding because you allowed a building to go up in an airport approach zone. So to understand this is one of our few areas where our zoning is, if you imagine like a cone that goes out from the airport in that way, where the farther away from the airport you are, the higher the allowed height of structures, the closer you are, the more restricted it is on height. So there's actually a third dimension to the zoning in this area. But this particular map and set of maps will be incorporated by reference into the ordinance, so anyone contemplating land use changes or development in proximity to the airport can be aware of the airport overlay. And so the Planning Commission conducted a hearing on this on August 18th. They unanimously recommended approval of the text amendment as drafted and presented. We worked with the city attorney to make some minor edits to clarify the way in which this layout plan is being incorporated by reference and would become a part of the city's official zoning map. So your alternatives today would be to approve the proposed text amendment as recommended. You could approve it with any revisions you think need to be made, or you could maintain the status quo and decide that no changes should be made to the current regulations. The Planning Commission recommended option 1, that the text amendment be approved as presented. We do have Tim Rogers here with the Salina Airport Authority that could answer any technical questions that you have, but we view this as an update and enhancement to our current codes, which we think have worked pretty well since 1992. I'll stand for any questions, or you may want to save them for Mr. Rogers.
Questions for Mr. Andrew at this time?
Thank you.
Nope, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, for the opportunity just to ask your support for these text amendments. The Salina Regional Airport is I think everybody in this room is aware, is a very active facility, handling over 90,000 aircraft operations annually. Those operations are varied. That's from K-State Salina students on their first solo or first student flights with an instructor from the K-State Salina campus to air carrier aircraft being certified for delivery, in 2016, activity by Bombardier Aerospace. That's going on in our community right now with specialists from Canada and Wichita teaming together to use our airport and our airspace. Additional activity is military activity, business jets that use Salina as a refueling stop, and of course our based aircraft owners and operators that use aircraft for personal travel and also for business travel so they can reach their markets and their customers and their facilities all across the nation. Airspace zoning is critical to protect, the aircraft's approach and departures to our 4 runways. And as we've been very successful, as Mr. Andrews indicated, that over the years that there's been significant development in the vicinity and the outreaches away from the airport. Cell towers, for example, have been able to be located both within the city limits and within the county to the satisfaction of those property owners and developers. And then the balance is being met. Can mention that this is a parallel action by the city and the county, since a majority of the airspace that is protected overlays the county. The County Planning Commission has considered this item already. A unanimous vote by the County Planning Commission to approve the text amendments for the county's resolution and zoning overlay district. Tomorrow morning, I'll be briefing the county commissioners in study session on this topic, and they'd be scheduled for their final action a week from tomorrow on this ordinance. I would be pleased to answer any questions that you may have, and thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rogers? Wow, clean.
I don't know if any of us know enough to ask the technical questions.
Well, no,
but it sounds good.
Yeah.
It sounds like it makes sense.
I'll just say that I know Commissioner Crawford and I have seen a lot of the work product that Javiation has produced for the airport on the master plan, and it's appreciated, and it's a tough task, but they know what they're doing. So.
This is one of the last pieces that you kind of implement after a master plan update to the scale that we did, and it is getting the text amendment in correct and technically correct and using the current terminology. Would like to thank City Attorney Greg Bingston for his assistance, and in addition to Mr. Andrew and the assistance, we've been able to. I think the attempt is to provide a means and mechanism where the public will have better information, better knowledge about the airspace, developers and landowners. So the new drawings and technology is good too. The digital copies of all these airspace drawings will be available, on the Airport Authority's website, www.salinaairport.com, and then also through the clerk's office and the planning office. Copies will be readily available for the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this item at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back for action.
I move that we approve application number Z15-9, requesting a comprehensive amendment of section 42-815 through 42-825 of the Salina Municipal Airport Zoning Ordinance.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion in 2 seconds for the approval of application number Z15-9, requesting comprehensive amendment of section 42-815 through 42-825 of the Salina Municipal Airport Zoning Ordinance. Any further comments at this time? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you.
Item 8.2, application number Z15-8, requesting review and possible amendment of section 42-5189 of the University District sign regulations to allow electronic changeable copy signs in the University zoning district.
Okay, Mr. Andrew, one last time for the day. Maybe.
Maybe. We hope. We have been working as a planning staff on the subject of trying to get up to speed and keeping our codes up to date as it relates to electronic changeable copy signs. And what we did is we started with commercial districts. We then worked with some of the conditional uses that we find in our residential districts like churches and schools. Then we had a public use district that was created which was designed for schools and other public uses like parks or fire stations or facilities like that. And so we wanted to update sign regulations for that as well. One area that we did not address and at the time did not have a partner for was the university district regulations. So this text amendment was actually a proactive attempt by the Planning Commission to move forward with that. And it is antiquated language and has been addressed in our other districts, but actually it might surprise you that the only type of illumination allowed for a university district sign it allowed for an externally spotlit sign. In other words, a sign that was essentially dead but was illuminated by a spotlight, and did not allow for internally illuminated signs, and certainly did not allow for electronic changeable copy signs. So we worked through that with the university district, and just for your benefit, the properties within the city of Salina that have university zoning include the Kansas Wesleyan University campus, the St. John's Military School campus, the K-State Salina campus, and the former Marymount College campus, including the administration building and the highway patrol training facility there. So those are properties that are have the university designation. And so in 2012, we did some text amendments that allowed for essentially a advertising sign or billboard type arrangement on the rear of scoreboards in the university district. And there was an application presented to the Planning Commission for a conditional use permit to add signage to the rear of the existing Kansas Wesleyan scoreboard. As you can see from the photo, at the time that these text amendments were done and the conditional use permit was acted on, the stadium reconstruction project was not even initiated yet. It wasn't even considered a real project at that time. So this particular plan was for the scoreboard as it existed. The result of the planned development district that was created and to accommodate an 8-lane track required the existing scoreboard to be relocated away from the track. So this location here is a different location than where the original scoreboard was on the original plan done in 2012. But we prepared a text amendment that not only addressed the ability to address the electronic changeable copy reader board on the rear of a athletic stadium scoreboard, but also just the general ability to have an electronic changeable copy sign, so that if at K-State Salina on Centennial Road or St. John's Military School or the Student Activity Center at Kansas Wesleyan University, this text amendment would allow for them within certain limits to have an electronic changeable copy sign comparable to what's allowed in our residential conditional use categories in our public use districts. We have not yet had a taker from, there was a number of parent-teacher organizations that we were working with that were interested in having those at elementary schools, and to date, none of those have come forward, but we use that as a kind of a template or guide to set up this text amendment. So it does two things. It allows for a changeable copy reader board sign on the rear of the proposed new Kansas Wesleyan scoreboard. And it also allows them to apply for sign permits at other locations to have an electronic changeable copy sign of a smaller scale. As to this particular request, because we had no ability to have the illumination or the electronic reader board sign, the Planning Commission only has the authority to approve static advertising signs. In other words, the schedule or signage, if you could go back to the other sign, Dustin. This, under the current code, is the only type of signage allowed. And so the text amendment that's before you today is necessary in order for Kansas Wesleyan, or in the case of their scoreboard or any other university, used to have an electronic changeable component to that. And the one piece that we are missing in terms of our communication with representatives of Kansas Wesleyan is the importance of, there's actually a need for a sign permit before they install anything on the outside or exterior portion. So it's a difficult distinction, but anything that's inside the stadium is a scoreboard. Anything that's oriented to the outside of the stadium is an advertising sign. And so anything that would be installed oriented towards Cloud Street or beyond would be considered a sign requiring a sign permit. But we are unable to issue a permit for a reader board sign under the current code, and so this text amendment is an attempt to be proactive and to have that code amendment in place to allow for that installation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And this may be a real technical question. I was concerned about the bright signs that do have, I believe, as you worded, blinking, flashing, or fluttering lights. There's one on Broadway which unfortunately gets too much of my attention when I get to that intersection, and it's rather bright and distracting. How do you, what's the difference between blinking and flashing and something that had a very small hold time and went to another image real fast?
Well,
repeatedly?
the general rule of thumb in the industry, in the regulatory industry, is an 8-second hold time. If something is changing faster than that, then that would be considered blinking or flashing or pulsating. The issue with changeable copy signs is they're very easy to program and control, but they're also very difficult to regulate, just as you mentioned. So in the particular one that you are referencing, we have gotten the most comments or concerns or complaints about in terms of both the intensity of the light and also with the blinking or flashing. They are able to control that internally if they are willing to regulate it in that fashion. But that is one of the biggest challenges of regulating electronic changeable copy signs is that can be programmed in, as can we require automatic dimmer controls and things like that that will adjust the light output based on, so on a bright sunny day at noon you need more illumination in the sign than you do after dark, and most of those are supposed to be programmed in with automatic dimmer controls that will adjust that light down as darkness descends. But just like anything else, we have responsible sign owners and less responsible, but certainly the change in the industry is evolving towards more and more use of the changeable copy. But it's all in how it's programmed and set up to start. But certainly if we get complaints received about that being a driver distraction, then we try to contact the owner of the sign and to get that either dialed down in illumination or get away from the blinking, flashing, pulsating, which is the bigger distraction for most drivers.
In a moving pictorial image, that's an image that just moves
It's
across.
just to move
the
this
screen.
a steady scrolling across. So if you had, and there might be more messages here, and if they might have more details there, but it would be certainly the sign at this current sign at the Bicentennial Center. The image on that changes, but it doesn't flash or blink. It just, the message changes over time. So the options are that in some signs you have a steady moving text or moving image that goes across and it repeats, but if this was there and it's just that electronic image there, that would be fine. If it was there and it was flashing on and off once a second, that would be considered a flashing or blinking sign. That would not be permissible.
Okay, thank you. Does 10 o'clock at night cover football games? If they go into overtime? I hate the scoreboard to go dead.
Well, we've had that discussions, and that's something that we could clean up on a second reading. In what we have in our public use district is that it has to shut off at 10 o'clock unless there's a scheduled event taking place. And so I think to address that, we could certainly add that as a cleanup piece that you wouldn't, if the game's on, the stadium lights are on, and it's 10:15, it makes no sense to have that. And the other thing, in the case of other electronic signs, sometimes those help provide illumination that help people exit the stadium or the area safely. So it would be better, I think, served if we added something that said it's 10 o'clock unless there's a scheduled event that is ongoing or taking place. And that's the way we addressed it in the public use district, because we thought about the same thing with Salina Stadium. They don't have one now, but under the code they could, and so what we've tried to do is make this consistent with what's been allowed there. So we've tried to keep the codes up to date for allow it, but we have not had many come forward yet with our public schools, but we expect it.
Dean, on the sign, were the 6 sponsors and the 2 schedules,
Mm-hmm.
are those backlit, or are they just painted, or?
Well, under
Flat
this amendment, if they wanted to have these as illuminated panels, they could be illuminated panels. Presently, they couldn't be, but under this amendment, those would be considered signs that could have internal illumination
Okay,
if
so
they
they'd be
desired.
governed though by that same time, dimmable and time
Right.
period. Okay. On the, looking at that signage and looking at the entire signage package, will there be signage on the grandstand area or on other places of the stadium grounds? And what about on the flip side of that scoreboard? Is it all scoreboard, or is there some advertising? on
It
that?
is all scoreboard there, but and again, it's a distinction, but if you go out to Dean Evans Stadium and they have a Coca-Cola logo on the scoreboard there, that's considered a scoreboard. It's only considered a sign if it's not oriented to the spectators at the venue. So the inside of this facing the spectators in the venue is a scoreboard. The exterior side that's facing the public and travelers on Cloud is a sign.
Okay. And Okay, now, at some point, is there something on the sign ordinance about on-site and off-site, and is that part of this amendment as well?
Well, we're continuing to have that discussion and would with the school district. It is maybe barely permissible to distinguish between on and off-site messaging, but our standard response is we can measure brightness, we can do size, we can do location, we can do size, but it is, you start treading dangerously when you try to regulate content of signs.
Right.
So you have to focus, we're focused on the size, the scale, the location in relation to the street, the illumination, but not necessarily on the content.
Okay.
So this is defined as an advertising sign by its nature, and so all these sponsors will be, those are all off-site advertising for those. And if there was an off-site message on there, that would be permissible as well. That's part of the sponsorship. So our focus has been on the size, the appearance, its location, and not on the content.
Okay.
Mayor, if
Right.
I may, could I ask a couple questions?
Please, yeah.
Dean, what do they have on the back of the sign today? I assume they have the new sign. Is it up?
I don't know that they have any, they have some wiring up that appears to be a box to hold this screen on it there. We are in the process of trying to get them to obtain the necessary sign permits to do anything that looks like that. But they have the framework of the structure up,
So
and
pretty
that has
much-
been one of the points of confusion, was that they told the planning commission that they would be using the existing scoreboard structure, but it appears they have moved ahead and erected the new scoreboard structure. So as you can see from this has a dramatically different look, and I think if you drive by, it has a dramatically different look than this slide right here, which was the back of the existing scoreboard. So what the planning commission did at their request was that they extended the life of the conditional use permit, which normally you have to get a sign permit within 180 days. They asked for 18 months because they did not believe that they would be doing the signage in this fall season. But it does look like they're moving ahead with trying to get that done for this fall season.
Thank you.
That's my interpretation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any public comment on this particular item? And seeing none, bring it back for further discussion and a motion.
Mr. Mayor, move approval on first reading ordinance number 15-10801, application number Z 15-8, requesting review and possible amendment of section 42-518 of the University District sign regulations to allow electronic changeable copy signs in the U zoning district.
Second.
If you wanted to add or just clarify that motion, that we will bring back some language for you in second reading that will address public events that go past 10 o'clock, just so we get that into the record.
Okay.
So move. In addition.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to pass on first reading ordinance number 15-10801. Application number Z-15-8. Request and review and possible amendment of section 42-518, subsection 9 of the University District sign regulation to allow electronic changeable copy signs in the University zoning district with possible changes to the timing aspect of the sign usage for second reading. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I did not attach the ordinance related to application Z15-9 on item 8.1. Did you include that?
I did, I read that.
All right, very
I read
good.
that first,
Okay.
yes.
So we're good.
Yep. Okay. We want to move to other business, but before we do that, should we take care of resolution 157258 prior to, if somebody would like to make a motion to add that consideration of
Mr. Mayor, if I may, if the commission would entertain about a 5-minute recess, staff would welcome the opportunity to confer before we proceed. We can give you a little bit more sense of how we might want to proceed with this item.
Okay, we will take a 5-minute recess, and the clock is 2 minutes slow. So it is actually 6 o'clock. We'll return at 6:05. But don't go by that clock. Okay, that 5-minute break is done. Mr. Gage looks like he found a treat way out there.
So did Commissioner Crawford.
Commissioner Crawford as well. So are we looking at the consideration of an extension of resolution, or if you'd like to maybe word that for us and we can form a motion into placing that on the agenda?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I think it would be best, if you wish, to simply take up the matter of 623 North 13th Street.
Okay.
And if that's your choice, we can elaborate further on the status of that matter.
Okay. All right, then. I would accept a motion to place upon today's agenda the matter of 623 North 13th Street.
Second.
That wasn't a
Need
motion.
second. I'm sorry. I thought it was strange that you were doing it, but. Okay.
There you go. We got a motion and a second to place on today's agenda, and we'll leave it to the clerk to number this in whatever fashion necessary. But we will add this to the agenda to take up the matter of 623 North 13th Street. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. Okay, we'll now hear the matter of 623 North 13th Street.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. The reason for making that point in that matter and referring to the matter as strictly related to the property, it was necessary in this case to invoke the jurisdiction of the Saline County District Court. And there is a standing order in the Saline County District Court issued by Judge Hickman in relation to that property. It incorporates by reference your resolutions number 15-7209 and 15-7258. And if I may, it's one of those where I would not want to misparaphrase, and if I may read just two of the paragraphs from the actual court order to assure that you're aware of the nature of the order. It provides in sub-E, defendants are ordered to eliminate the dangerous and unsafe conditions on the property by complying with resolution number 15-7209 as amended by resolution number 15-7258 and repairing or removing the dangerous structure and making the property safe and secure, all in accordance with the foregoing resolutions of the city's governing body and applicable law, including but not limited to Salina Code Chapter 8 and Chapter 31. Subparagraph F of the order says, the court hereby ratifies and incorporates by reference into these orders the terms and conditions of resolution numbers 15-7209 and 15-7258. If the defendants fail to commence the repair or removal or to diligently prosecute the work until the work is substantially completed, all within the time stated in resolution number 15-7258, and as determined by the building official, the city is authorized to cause the structures to be raised and removed as it is authorized to do under Salina Code Chapter 31. That deadline, as set forth in the resolution, was September 11, 2015. That is what prompted the significance of today in that that deadline has now passed. With Mr. Miniman's announcement that he has filed suit and not knowing the nature of that action, our recommendation would be that the matter simply stand. The governing body at this time, the order of the district court stands, and we would not want to do anything in any way that would be different than or suggest anything different than that court order that is in place. And I believe the thought is that we would analyze the action that Mr. Miniman has filed as quickly as possible, and then be in a position to advise you as to the city's best course of action going forward.
Okay, questions for staff on this? So, as I'm hearing you, our course of action is to allow you the opportunity to review what the action was, but to let that standing order in the court follow through the course as it's taken already, and whatever the action that Mr. Miniman has taken, let that follow its course as well.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so
One question. That would mean we would proceed with plans for demolition if the building were not made safe, unless the court hearing would suggest some other course of action you take?
That is certainly your prerogative at, the city's prerogative at this stage. It is, however, without the benefit of knowing what Mr. Miniman has filed, what it seeks,
okay.
then we cannot advise you.
Because on a practical basis, even if we decided today to demolish it, just looking at the past ones, it's not going to happen this week or this month. I mean, I'm sure there's time to allow you to review the court action. But we're not changing our present course of action today.
That is correct. Short of a different order from the judicial, from the court, you are in a position to demolish the structure.
Right. Just, Mr. Menon, we'll get to you just a second, please. Okay. Well, since we have taken the action of putting this on the agenda, we will allow the property owner to add any comments at the podium that he would wish to. And we just ask that you once again give your name and address, and then any comments that you wish to. If you wish to address the commission on this item, then you're certainly welcome to at the podium. And we just ask that you, again, provide your name and address and for the record, and then whatever your comments might be.
Joseph Miniman. I live in Peoria, Illinois, and I also live here when I'm not living there. Okay. I have an interest in the 623 North 13th Street property, and Mr. Bankston seems to misinterpret the law. There is in the resolution, you can put in when I have to start. There is no cutoff date as to when I have to get this done. It says diligently pursue it. So they put a deadline in the resolution, which is in clear error. I mean, that's not in the statute, and he knows that, and so does the managers. It says you have to diligently pursue, and they have stopped me. I filed a lawsuit today to take and get the matter resolved. And there will be a first meeting in court on the 28th. After that, I don't know when the next court date will be. So that's why I say suspend anything you wish to do at this time, as far as your resolutions go, and let the court take its course. And I'll see him in court.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so do we have any further public comment at this time? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion and then bring it back to the commission for action. Any questions for staff? Thank you.
We did have a completion date as a part of that resolution, did we not?
I think we did on all of them.
September the 11th was the completion date.
And what I've said is, it says diligently pursue.
And we're
Say a deadline.
right.
That's what the statutes say, and they know that. It says diligently pursue. You got to write the set of time to begin. I began, I've been stopped. And it says diligently pursue it. There's no deadline in the statute of when I got to get it done. So the 11th day that you put in there and the date you put in June is not relevant and not legally enforceable as long as I do something. I can't do anything because they've told me I can't, and that's why we're going to court. What I can do and can't do is going to be resolved there. And there's a hearing date or a scheduling date set for the 28th of this month. I filed a lawsuit. I put it in the mail to him. He should get it tomorrow. All I'm saying, postpone the whole matter until the courts see what's going on.
Mr. Bankson, in the standing order from the court, did they reestablish those dates, or did they address that at all?
The court expressly incorporated by reference the two resolutions in
Right.
its order. So it becomes a part of the order of the court.
Right, okay. Okay, well, we'll, as you say, we'll do the court thing, so.
That's all I ask, because
Okay.
I know once I get into court, things will be a lot different.
Okay, well, all
I
right.
just know it will.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this point, are we looking for direction for staff, or are we, or am I looking for, if anybody wants to make a motion to do other than stay on the path we're on?
Yeah, I don't believe any action is necessary, Mayor. It was just a matter of making sure you were aware of the developments, both in relation to the court order that the city obtained, and now that we're aware that Mr. Miniman has filed, I don't know if it's a separate suit or pleadings in this pending suit. I guess we'll find out.
Okay, so we have a standing order from the court, and we have a pending lawsuit, and if there's a motion to do anything other than recommendation of council to just continue into the process, then I'll hear that motion at this time. And I don't hear any motion, so I think this item is done, and for lack of a motion. So.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to other business this time.
Mr. Mayor, I move to recess into executive session for 60 minutes to discuss matters pertaining to the acquisition of real estate for the reason that public discussion of that matter would adversely affect the city's position in relation to acquisition of the real estate, and to discuss with legal counsel matters subject to the attorney-client privilege for the reason that public discussion of those matters would waive the privilege and adversely affect the city's interest in the matters, and reconvene at 7:15.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to recess into executive session for an hour and reconvene at 7:15. Before we do that, just want to take the opportunity in other business to bring up some other business. And that would be, I have two things I'd like to bring up. First is that I'd just like to make you all aware that the League of Kansas Municipalities held their annual governing board meeting in Salina this year. They move all over the state when they do that. They chose to hold it in Salina, stayed out at the new Holiday Inn, got a great report. They loved that place, and they had dinner and a reception at Blue Sky Brewery, and a tour of the place and everything, and I think they had a great time, and I think both of those businesses represented our city quite well. So they were pretty impressed. So we were appreciative that they chose us this year for that governing board meeting. And then also just to thank everybody in the 9/11 Service Day exercise. American Red Cross put up a lot of smoke detectors. Friends of the Rivers did a river cleanup by the new entry where on the Midway where the signage and all that will be going soon. And North Salina Community Development did a nice landscaping project in front of Chuck's Bar actually on a full block in the planting strip on the east side of the street there. And Gary had shovels and rakes himself and did a great job there. And all in all, University Church and the NAACP had a pancake breakfast and organization meeting in the morning. That went great. Should have come by, and Dr. Davis and I were flipping pancakes. So it was a great time. It was a great community event. We even had about 25 softball and baseball players from Lindsborg, Bethany College, come join us. So we thank the Bethany College kids for coming down, and all the community members that played a part in helping to beautify North Salina, and smoke detectors out at the old Schilling Air Force Base, some of the housing out there, and of course the river as well, and entry into Kenwood Park. So, next time, October 3rd is the next Fall Fix-Up Day, and so hopefully people will be available and come out and do a number of other projects that we're going to do to beautify the community. So, anyway, that's all our other business. Anybody else have any other business and other business? No? Okay, we have a motion and a second to recess into executive session for an hour. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. We're now in executive session. Do we have business upon
We
return?
don't anticipate any
Okay,
business.
no business when we return. And thank you, ladies, again for coming to the meeting.